Coming up, creating a garden of practicality and beauty.
Does laughing really reduce your stress level and improve your state of mind? We'll find out.
And having a bank account could be the only way to get your retirement benefits. All this and more is next on Time for Living. Welcome to Time for Living. I'm Howard Niels.
And I'm Janet Jagalian. With the transition from summer to fall around the corner, you may be wondering how to protect the summer investment you've made toiling in the garden. So today we'll show you some beautiful plants and flowers and give you gardening tips to make a smooth transition.
We'll also meet a woman who's showing people the benefits of laughing. Could it be that having fun really is good for your health?
And of course, we'll have this week's Medical Minute, Health, Finance, and more, and we'll be traveling around to England. So let's get started. Nestled in the hills of New Hampshire along the Connecticut River, overlooking Mount Ascutney, Vermont, is the magnificent home of Saint-Gaudens, one of America's greatest sculptors. At first, this was Saint-Gaudens' summer residence between 1885 and 1897. It then became his permanent home from 1900 until his death in 1907. Saint-Gaudens first came to Cornish, New Hampshire, and rented this house in 1885. At the time, the building was an old inn. He adapted the house for his needs and converted the hay barn into a sculpting studio. Saint-Gaudens named the estate Aspet after his father's birthplace in France, and over the years transformed the grounds into gardens, hedges, and recreation areas. The United States National Park Service has since preserved the house and its gardens as a National Historic Site. Today, with gardening becoming one of the fastest growing hobbies in the country, the gardens and hedges at Saint-Gaudens have become a spectacular backdrop for artists and visitors alike to reflect in. The old-fashioned perennials enclosed by pine and hemlock hedges echo the Italian and the English formal gardens. Their original layout was personally directed by Saint-Gaudens, who was involved in all aspects of planning and developing the landscape around Aspet. The task of maintaining and continuing the gardens has fallen to James Hoff, Chief Gardener for the U.S. National Park Service. Recently, Howard Nielsen visited with Mr. Hoff to tour the gardens and seek his advice on how we could raise many of these perennials in our own gardens.
Okay, well, let's take a little stroll around it. Beginning here, what have we here?
This is a hosta, Howard, hosta fortunii. Most people grow it as a foliage plant. Interesting colors and shapes to the leaves. They're used here in this garden to sort of accent or highlight the corners of the beds. A lot of people ignore the flowers, and while this is certainly well past its prime in bloom, it can be very attractive, and there's some hostas that have pure white blossoms instead of just the lavender.
And then it's backed up with taller.
Yeah, and this taller material in here, the lavenders, the pinks, and over here you have more of the rose pinks are the tall garden phlox. They're native North American, and you were talking about the British traveling around the world earlier. It's one they discovered in North America, exported to Europe, hybridized, bred, new colors, new varieties, and we reintroduced it here.
And the phlox is really a Native American plant.
This one is, yes.
Now, what's this taller?
That's a veronica, and I get a lot of questions on that because people plant it in their gardens and they say, why is yours so tall? This is a veronica longifolia, which is an older variety. It was probably in the gardens when Saint-Gaudens was here and has not been hybridized like a lot of them have.
Oh, I see.
If you look in here, it's a little wayward. It gets a lot of wind, and there are a lot of bamboo stakes in there. You might
Yes.
be able to see that that's staked and tied up to keep it in a little bit of a
And then you have
order.
a little purple flower there.
That's the monkshood, and there's more of it around the corner there.
Okay.
It's English monk.
Now, are you trying to create or I guess is the effort to create blends of colors and?
Yeah, as you can see, most of the gardens here are of the lavenders, pinks, more the pastel shades, augmented with blue.
Now this is interesting. What
That's a delphinium.
All right.
I mentioned we had a very good year for delphinium. That's a belladonna species. It's on its way out. I would, at this stage, we've got spent blossoms which would come off, and I would just be keeping what little is left on there, just for a semblance, taking these old spent flower blossoms off and just sort of.
Now, do they go in the mulch pile?
These will not go in the mulch pile. I could be carrying over some diseases on
Looks
these.
as though you have some roses down here.
Actually, that's an astilbe.
Oh, that? Oh,
It's a
okay.
a Chinese or Asian plant. They just went out. If you look on the other side, there's still a number of them browning a little bit. And
Oh, I see over there. Yes.
And
yes.
people sometimes leave those stalks to add some interest.
So you've clipped the stalks.
Yeah, the flowers have
From
come
here,
off already,
yeah.
much like this.
All right. Now we're getting into some much higher.
That's an interesting one.
Now that's coming in, is it not?
It's just coming in.
Yeah.
That is an Artemisia, very romantic name of Chinese mugwort, I believe.
Mugwort?
It's mugwort. It's Artemisia lactiflora.
Sort of ugly
it was
name
a
for a
favorite of a
pretty
British
flower.
gardener that if anyone does much reading on gardening, Gertrude Jekyll was a favorite of hers. Sort of, I like it. It's very light and airy, and even though it's like the Veronica is tied up, it's sort of nice to sort of try to get it to cascade and sort of blend with some of these colors over
I
here.
see.
I like to leave it, and again, sort of like some of the other plants, I find that these flower blossoms really add a nice touch by just sort of weaving them in.
Oh, I
amongst
see.
The plants.
So you come and you
behind.
come out here during the day and move things so that they blend together.
I call it pillow fluffing.
Pillow fluff.
When we come back, James Hoff's recommendations on how we can perfect our gardening talents. So stay with us.
Attention mature travelers. Grand Circle Travel invites you to discover the world in a whole new way. When you call for your copy of the world's best travel values, absolutely free. Inside, you'll discover a completely new way to travel that's planned and paced exclusively for mature travelers. At last, discover the joy of meeting local people in the places you visit and learn about their unique culture and customs and experience their greatest art and architecture. From a picnic in the Swiss Alps to the spice markets of Istanbul, Grand Circle Travel invites you to discover the world in a whole new way. Call for your free copy of the world's best travel values today. To receive complete details on how you can discover the world in a whole new way with Grand Circle Travel, including your free copy of the world's best travel values, call toll-free 1-800-966-2768. That's 1-800-966-2768. Call today.
Welcome back to Time for Living. If you're just joining us, we just took a garden tour with Howard Nielsen and James Hoff, Chief Gardener for the U.S. National Park Service at Saint-Gaudens National Historic Site. Howard also talked with Mr. Hoff about how we can perfect our own gardening techniques, as well as some tips on how to arrange a garden. And here's what he had to say.
I think we are all sort of aware of gardens, but we're not that skilled at it. Most of us are not. We play around with it a little bit. Tell me, are there any necessary requirements to be a gardener, to be a skilled, knowledgeable gardener?
You probably hit something pretty solidly, Howard, and that's the idea of playing around. Even in being a professional gardener and being responsible for gardens like this in the National Park Service, I play around. It's experimentation, finding something might work well one year, but doesn't work well the next year. I think the biggest need would be to be adventuresome, not to become narrow-focused.
You know, when we look around here, we see the colors and the textures, but there's also aroma. What part does that play in the designing of a garden?
Well, I think of Chinese cooking right away. You know, the Chinese rate their culinary appeal on 4 or 5 elements, and appearance is one of them. We often don't, and is rated very highly. We don't think of a dish needing necessarily to look nice. We rate taste high. Fragrance in the garden can be very key. It could be difficult to work with. Here at the park, there's thyme planted in a lot of the field areas. One has to be able to walk over it before you can get the aroma of it. But people do walk through the fields and crush the thyme underfoot. Tricks like that, taking fragrant plants and planting them near a seating area. I don't know if you can catch any fragrance right now here in the garden.
Yes, very definitely. I'm sensing it right now.
Yeah, that very sweet. We're sitting very close to some very fragrant plants.
So when you plan out your garden for the year, do you take that into consideration, where people will be sitting and the sense of aroma?
I do.
And I'm looking at yours here now, and everything is flowered. And it seems that when I get involved with our garden, we have a rush of flowers, and then we have none, and then we get another rush of flowers. But it's obvious that this is planned so that you constantly have things in bloom.
This is deliberately planned, in my opinion, to sort of climax throughout the seasons. And even though there's a lot of color here in these gardens, in my estimation, it's not quite yet the peak. The peak is still yet to come.
How do gardens differ region by region? Let's say the Southwest, for example.
A lot of plants, or what one would have and what one should have, varies. Plants that will take arid conditions, a lot of sun, bright sunshine. I think you find a lot of northern people moving to a climate like that and wanting to transport the plant material that they're accustomed to in the northern climate with them. And there are no ends of problems. If one wants to develop a nice green sward in your front lawn in the Southwest, it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of expense to do that. People in a climate like that are realizing that the native sages or wild salvias, coyote bush and things like that are native and used to a dry, hot climate are every bit as valid of a garden or landscaping plant as
and yet the British
we have here.
The British, when the height of the British Empire, all over the world, they went to very arid places, and yet they'd have grand gardens, well planted, the kinds of things that they would have at home. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that must have taken quite a bit of effort to do that in India and places such as that.
I think one has to work with the climate and the conditions one's given. Here in the garden, I'll discover that there's a big difference between the two terraces here, this middle terrace and the lower terrace. The lower terrace is much more shaded. Consequently, it stays more moist. The soils are more moist and damper. Some of the plants, like the peonies and especially delphinium, will not do as well down there. I'm almost batting my head against a brick wall to try to grow delphiniums in that lower terrace. They love it up here, where it is the soils are better drained, a little better sun than down there. And instead of going through the pain and the expense of trying to grow those plants down there, I'll grow them here and I'll look for a substitute.
Well, how does a home gardener find out whether this soil is good or bad?
Experimentation could work in there. That's why I mentioned earlier of being adventuresome, trying plants. A lot of people would maybe put a plant in and realize this is not doing well. What am I doing wrong? It might be that the gardener's not doing anything wrong. It's just not a well-suited site for the plant. Try it someplace else or try a different plant. Certainly advice like university extension services. Here at the park this last week I was doing soil tests, taking samples from the beds, from the lawn areas, from the areas underneath the trees, and had them tested at university services, which gives me a printout, and those people, university professionals, will go through that and make recommendations, which then I can.
What about feeding
the
plants, feeding the soil?
Their gardening right now, Howard, I believe is listed as probably the top hobby in North America. Number one, with number of people, participants. A lot with, I think, maybe the baby boomer generation getting a little older and settling down, a kick-off of the green movement or back to the earth movement. There's a lot of very good advice around. Garden centers. Ask questions of people at salespeople at garden centers, extension services, and use it, make use of it.
So tell me what you will do this fall to prepare this garden for the next year.
With these basically being perennials is to cut them down. Remove all the top vegetation matter and move it out of the gardens. That I'm aiming at removing any fungal diseases, insects that might overwinter.
So you shouldn't leave the top parts lying on the garden.
It depends. Some people will. In climates, northern climates where you get a lot of snow, there's an advantage to trap the snow. So a lot of gardeners will leave a certain amount of stubble, which will trap snowfall so it doesn't blow away and drift, which gives an insulation. I tend to cut these down and would mulch them with pine boughs, hemlock boughs in certain areas and with certain plants to hold that snow cover. But I do like to get them cleaned up in the fall and cut down. I'd weed them at that time. You can see all the weeds that you can't see now that are hidden, and believe me, they're in there.
Well, what advice do you have for the home gardener?
Maintenance techniques vary, and I think what people should realize is that design varies as well. Perhaps the idea of being adventuresome. What I'm hit with often is people will say, James, I'm thinking of putting a flower bed over there. What do you think? And I first hit them with, why do you want to put it over there? Why would you not put it over there? And that can bring some interesting answers. Someone might say, well, I just want it over there because it gets a lot of sun. But maybe it might look better over here where it's a little more shaded from the standpoint of highlighting a view, extending and making a backyard space seem larger or smaller or more intimate, more colorful, having fragrance near the back door, or a view of some color outside the kitchen window.
Good.
So that advice is not to be locked into any particular patterns.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us here.
Thank you.
Gardens are lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When Time for Living continues, we'll find out how much laughing really helps your physical and mental well-being. So stay with us.
Are you a woman? Are you over the age of 50? Are you postmenopausal?
If you find yourself answering yes to these questions, your bones may be thinning, which can lead to osteoporosis. But there is something you can do. Call 1-800-992-6638 and take a free bone loss risk assessment. By answering just a few simple questions over the phone, you can find out whether you need further evaluation. The sooner you know, the better. Because osteoporosis doesn't have to mean giving up the things you love.
I could have osteoporosis. I could have it. I could have it. I could have it. That's why I call for a free assessment.
If you're over 50 and postmenopausal, call 1-800-992-6638 and take your free bone loss risk assessment to see if you need further evaluation by your doctor.
Welcome back. Is laughter really the best medicine? After studying this phenomenon for decades, the medical profession now has proof that laughter not only stimulates the immune system, but can also offset the negative effects of stress and disease.
Today's second effort salute goes to an individual not for her second effort after reaching retirement age or creating a new business, but because psychological educator and humor expert Dr. Julianne Martinez has added a compelling twist to the existing humor and laughter theories.
Humor, according to Norman Cousins, is so much more than ha-ha funny.
The positive health benefits of humor have been studied for decades.
You have it within your own body's power to keep you healthy.
Research shows that laughter not only stimulates the immune system, it offsets the negative effects of stress on the body and mind. According to Dr. Jules, there's another emotion that offers the same benefit.
Empathy is the basis for pro-social behavior, doing things for people. It makes you feel better, psychologically, socially, physiologically. That's what laughing does. My mother channels Gracie Allen, I'm totally convinced. She does.
The Brooklyn-born former actress, television producer, college instructor, and natural-born comedienne gets her message across through various exercises which aren't always humorous.
What would you have wanted as the child that got the negative message to have heard instead?
The negative was, you're a bad child. And I can't take credit for the positive one because this is something my mother would say and still says. You're a wonderful, good child, perfect the way you are.
This is stuff that's not funny, but it makes you look at yourself and say, well, I guess I'm doing the best I can. And people laugh because they see themselves in each other.
The American Association of Retired Persons, based in the fast-paced, high-pressure world of Washington, D.C., hired the humor expert to lighten things up around the office. So how did her theory impact the players?
I have been under a lot of stress here lately, and this really helped me understand some things I have to do for myself.
I learned that humor can really help you get things into perspective.
Put your hand on the shoulder, the outside shoulder of the person on either side of you, and raise it a little bit. Raise your hand up, put it down, up, down, faster. Give yourselves a pat on the back. Good job.
Clearly, there's much more to laughter than being entertained. I'm Mary Norton reporting.
Though it may seem impossible, it's clear that finding humor in stressful situations and sharing laughter are powerful tools for a long and healthy life.
When Time for Living continues, we'll be traveling around to the Queen's Country. England is on the itinerary. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's now time for our traveling around destination.
And today we're taking a beautiful and scenic countryside trip to Southeast England. Enjoy the tour.
Southeast England, County Kent, is the tamest part of Britain, affluent yet populous. The countryside is a patchwork of fields that seduces the visitor. A trip to the White Cliffs of Dover can include a leisurely walk along the cliffs, enjoying a view of the ocean and the various ferry boats that run between England, France, and Belgium. Starting out in Dover, the walk first offers the tourist a view of the port of Dover, a jumping-off point for France. The chalk cliffs are actually made of limestone and peppered with pieces of flintstone. These minerals provide the underpinning of most of the coastline of Kent. The trail is about 7 miles long between Dover and Walmer. You should be careful not to go too close to the edge of the cliff. Major sections of the chalk cliffs often break away without notice, some dropping off 100 to 200 feet to the sea below. If you are planning this hike, you should consider taking along a supply of water and expect the walk to take most of the day. If you are able, it is a good idea to leave a car at the northern end, in Walmer, and take a bus to Dover. When you arrive in Walmer, if you planned it well, you will arrive just in time for a visit to the local outdoor cafe or pub for tea or a beer. There are many other sights to be seen around Kent that make excellent day trips. Deal is a quaint, small community along the coast. Deal is where local boaters may be found along the quarries, not to mention the swans. Canterbury is a major center in Kent. It is the home of the famous Canterbury Cathedral and has been the seat of the Church of England since 597 AD. The Church of England was founded when St. Augustine converted King Ethelbert of Kent to Christianity and subsequently became the first archbishop. The cathedral became a pilgrimage center after Thomas à Becket was murdered under its roof. The cathedral is open to the public and provides an excellent tour. As you go around the cathedral, note the constant ongoing construction. It takes a major effort to keep the stoneworks of this great monument in good repair. Traveling throughout Kent on its many public trails and walks bring out the beauty and simplicity of the English countryside. Its small towns like Forditch can bring you back to the earliest days of medieval England at almost every turn. Small villages with quaint buildings. Beautiful gardens. And old village churches provide many opportunities to explore the uniqueness of Old England in County Kent.
That tour was provided by Holly Saunders and Rich Williams.
Certainly some beautiful views in that.
Absolutely.
When Time for Living continues, a to-do list for retirement planning with Steve Burke's Health, Finance, and more. We'll be right back.
Traveling Around is brought to you by Grand Circle Travel. Attention mature travelers. Grand Circle Travel invites you to discover the world in a whole new way. When you call for your copy of the world's best travel values, absolutely free. Inside, you'll discover a completely new way to travel that's planned and paced exclusively for mature travelers. At last, discover the joy of meeting local people in the places you visit and learn about their unique culture and customs and experience their greatest art and architecture. From a picnic in the Swiss Alps to the spice markets of Istanbul, Grand Circle Travel invites you to discover the world in a whole new way. Call for your free copy of the world's best travel values today. To receive complete details on how you can discover the world in a whole new way with Grand Circle Travel, including your free copy of the world's best travel values, call toll-free 1-800-966-2768. That's 1-800-966-2768. Call today.
Welcome back to Time for Living. One of the least attractive aspects of retirement planning is assembling the facts you have to deal with and then facing them.
We all know we should do certain things, like have an annual medical exam, see the dentist twice a year, and plan for our retirement. Most of us take the position that we'll do the necessary things as soon as we have the time, which never comes. In today's Health, Finance, and More, Steve Burke has some tips to get you started.
Today, we're going to review the forms, documents, and facts we all need to have in hand by the time we retire or soon thereafter. May I strongly recommend that you set a goal of having this task done 1 month from today. If you miss by a couple of days, I won't be mad. First in your agenda should be a list of the documents which you need to have easy access to always. These are any and all policies, homeowners, health insurance, car insurance, etc., which you or someone working on your behalf would need to produce when called for. Next are legal documents such as deeds to property, wills and trusts, life insurance and annuity policies, as well as powers of attorney and Social Security and Medicare information, if available. Veterans benefits, if appropriate, should also be noted in your list. By having a list of all the property and valuable papers you have, it becomes easier for you, family members, and anyone else who might be assisting you to maintain good control of your assets. Sad to say, many of us as we get older, and particularly as we enter retirement, become forgetful. Since a great many of your assets, such as IRAs or other pension plans, may provide income for you, it's important to know their whereabouts. A list first indicates what you have and where it is. With the forms, documents, and valuable papers properly located, you should also have in place the instructions to go with them. A quick example of not being prepared when the time comes. Should you not prepare for coverage under Medicare before you are 65, it could cost you money and a lack of medical coverage. My advice? Contact the Social Security people, Medicare people, 2 to 3 months before you become eligible. Having a list of assets is also a way of facing facts. It's very important to look at what you have in an objective way. Without knowledge of those things of value which you have accumulated over your working lifetime, you may be hard put to know what you can expect for income in retirement. This is where the facts to face come in. A budget for retirement is an extremely important piece of information. It points out the good and the bad, and it is important to know both the good news and the bad news. By having a real practical idea of your financial needs in retirement, you have the opportunity to restructure certain assets to serve you better than originally planned. An example, if you have enough assets to last after 65, you can increase the value of your IRA investments or income you realize from it. Or an annuity could be earmarked to pay the premiums for nursing home insurance automatically. All of your lists and valuable papers should be located so that you or someone helping you can get to them easily. Many times, savings bank, passbooks, and checking accounts get misplaced. By putting as much as possible in list form prevents us from overlooking things of value, real or personal. Updating your list is also important because we often overlook the fact that a change in our life can create a change and maybe a problem because we don't update our important papers. Should a spouse pass away, there can be substantial exposure to the best laid plans for your retirement. Wills and trust would need changes, to say nothing of budgets, gifts, and control of assets. Joint ownership of investments, property, and retirement plans need to be reevaluated from time to time as we move through the retirement years. A list is a quick and easy way to look at those things we possess to see if change is called for. An example of something which should be on hand, should change occur, is a contract, like a deferred compensation contract with your employer. By having a copy of the deferred compensation contract with your valuable papers, you can quickly research the impact of your employer selling to a new company or merging with another business. Notes or mortgages should be kept where you or your helper can get them easily. As time passes in retirement, papers such as military discharge papers, birth and marriage certificates, adoption papers, or divorce records become increasingly important to have available. Areas such as stored and loaned possessions, citizenship papers, in short, anything which is going to impact you or your family needs to be identified somewhere, and a list is a good place to begin. A good idea is to sit down with your spouse, friend, or some family member and draw up a list with their input too. Should you need an example to help you get started, give the show a call and we'll send you a sample list. The retirement years can be very exciting times, but getting organized for retirement can be rewarding and informative. I'm Steve Burke, Time for Living.
If you have any financial questions about topics you've seen on Health, Finance, and More, you can write to us at Time for Living, care of Health, Finance, and More, P.O. Box 8452, Boston, Massachusetts, 02114.
Or you can fax us at 617-329-1774 or call our voicemail and ask your questions. Our voicemail phone number is 800-232-7213. When Time for Living continues, technology's far-reaching advances will soon impact the way older Americans receive their benefits. We'll explain when we come back.
Welcome back to Time for Living. With technology advancing at a rapid pace, many people who refuse to keep up with the computer age may find it's inevitable they will have to one day bite the bullet and join the masses.
In fact, millions of Americans will be notified this September that they will need to open a bank account by the end of next year if they are to continue receiving government payments. That includes Social Security, disability, and veterans benefits. As Mary Norton reports, it all has to do with electronic funds.
If you receive any type of federal payment, don't expect the check to be in the mail after January 1999. That means no more hassle waiting in line at the bank. The government will deposit your payment directly into your account by electronic funds transfer. And if you don't have an account, the government will open one for you, but it may cost you.
The account that will be opened for you is not like the regular ATM account. You would have limited services like no deposit or check writing capabilities and service charges.
There are clear benefits to EFT. The government estimates that it will save nearly $100 million a year using the automated deposit system. But for some consumers, excess banking fees are just one of their worries.
There's a whole range of issues that really concern us. And when we talk about seniors, for example, having to go to an ATM, our eyesight, some of our physical disabilities, arthritis in the hands, safety where they go to withdraw their funds.
I'd be doggone if I'm going to sit by to see the 10 million unbanked fall victim to this kind of situation. And maybe it's about time that others began to wake up.
The Senate Banking Committee recently held hearings to shed some light on this proposal. It was clear from the testimony that one group will certainly benefit, the banks.
$96 billion a year more that will be deposited in these institutions. They're not being required to pay any interest. But a trade-off is that if you're not paying interest, then by gosh, don't hit these people with every single fee imaginable that you can. That's close to extortion.
There are a number of reasons why some people do not have a bank account. Minimum balance requirements, bad experiences with banks during the Depression, and a lack of familiarity and education about the banking system.
We find that most people who are unbanked are minorities or women who have education of less than 9 years. Those people have to learn about financial institutions. What is a check? What is a draft? What is a monthly statement? So we have to do some basic education.
I'm Mary Norton reporting.
The majority of consumers like electronic funds transfer for their convenience. Advocacy groups for older Americans, however, did not favor implementing a mandatory program. They insisted that hardship waivers be included in the law.
A recent survey in the United States indicates that 66% of people over age 65 use prescriptions or non-prescription drugs, while representing only 12% of the population. They consume 30% of the prescription medications.
While women take more medications than older men because of their older average age, together, older adults take 4.5 prescription drugs per year and 2.1 non-prescription drugs, filling an average 12 to 17 prescriptions a year. At present, drugs are covered by only a few healthcare insurance programs and represent one of the highest out-of-pocket health expenses for the elderly. In today's Medical Minute, Dr. Alan Abrams tells you what you need to know about the consumption of medications.
Aging itself makes one more likely to accumulate diagnoses which are treated with a variety of medications. For the physician, prescribing to an older adult requires the most keen clinical awareness of the risks and benefits, not to mention the cost. This is because as we age, we undergo normal changes in the way we handle drugs that make us more vulnerable to adverse effects or unexpected outcomes. Studies have demonstrated the more medicines we take, the more likely we are to experience an adverse reaction. There are several important things your physician should do when starting you on a medication. 1, bring in a bag with all your medications. Adding medications without full knowledge of what you already take can lead to drug-drug interactions, change the effectiveness of treatment in place, require dosing adjustments, or a number of other considerations for your physician. 2, create clear goals and limits on the use of a medication. If a legitimate trial of a medication for your headache isn't taking care of the problem, then you and your physician should have a clear understanding it is time to think about another alternative. 3, discuss any reasonable non-medication strategies for coping with your medical dilemma. Relaxation techniques for anxiety and hypertension, and the like, nutritional alterations for edema or high cholesterol, are but 2 examples of how you can alleviate a medical problem without increasing your risk of medical complications with medicines. 4, when you're older, your physician should start with relatively low doses of medications and work up slowly. Start low and go slow is a good general rule when trying to find the right dose for you. 5, you should be educated about your medication. Never refrain from asking about the medicines you are taking. Your physician will be able to better monitor you for proper response if you are well informed. The more you know, the more likely you will take the medication correctly. 6, review your current medication regimen regularly. Many times, new conditions create the need for medicine that has effectiveness in more than one area. Many medications for blood pressure treat swollen ankles. Antidepressants often relax the bladder, and so on. You may not need to stay on all your medicines to keep you feeling your best. Your physician should work with you to advise you how to minimize your medication regimen. 7, consider any symptom you report a potential side effect of a drug you are already taking. Many medications cause adverse effects. Tiredness, shortness of breath, confusion of varying degrees, constipation, etc., is as likely caused by a medication you are taking as it is a primary symptom itself. Dose reduction trials under the supervision of your physician can help distinguish this for you. You may be able to feel better and reduce your pharmacy costs when medication is considered a possible cause of your symptoms. Medications are a blessing when taken correctly under the watchful eye of your physician. Too often, older adults accumulate a cabinet of medications to take regularly. Talk with your physician about keeping your medication regimen to the bare minimum to sustain your health. Discuss non-pharmacological options in the treatment of symptoms before running to the pharmacy with another prescription. You may save yourself some money, improve your vitality, simplify your daily routine, and keep your later years a time for living. I'm Dr. Alan Abrams with your Medical Minute.
We'll have more time for living when we come back. Stay with us.
I really love this. Look, this is me. This is what I do. This is who I am.
Discover Fosamax. Ask your doctor. You can't afford not to. Call 1-888-FOSAMAX for more information about Fosamax.
Welcome back. We thank all of you for watching Time for Living, and we hope you continue to get the information you need.
We'll certainly have more interesting people and places to introduce you to next week.
We'll see you then, and until then, remember,
it's time for living.
Take care.
Bye now.